when they had this ceremony on the south lawn of the White House. I was a graduate student in Shanghai. But at that time, we had no TV at our home. We have to go to a relative's house to watch a small black-white TV.
As a child growing up in Shanghai, and as someone who is an ordinary Chinese person yourself, what did poverty look like in the 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s?
I think people of my generation still have the memory of poverty years ago. That's why we cherish today's life even more. But China is still a developing country. We still have pockets of poverty here and there in the country. That's why we are giving such priority to the elimination of poverty, absolute poverty, or lift everybody above the poverty line. But this is, I think this is an ongoing task, because we are witnessing such fundamental transformation of the world, and technology is advancing so fast, changing all aspects of our life. So we have to make sure, as the whole society moves forward, as we develop, I mean the whole country, the nation is developing, nobody will be left behind.
That's also the message and the spirit of the Sustainable Development Goals as well.
Yes. President Xi Jinping has made this very clear. We should leave nobody behind.
You say years ago, in fact it wasn't so long ago, when most of the population of China was living with illiteracy and hunger. In 1978, there was a major turning point where Mr. Deng Xiaoping introduced reforms. In 1978, I think you were still a very young person. Where were you in 78, and what change did it introduce to the people around you? What do you remember of that year?
I have told my own story to many of my American friends. I have told Dr. Henry Kissinger, when he came to China for his first secret visit, I was working on the farm, what we call People's Commune, along the Chinese-Russian border. I was growing soybeans there. Now we are buying a lot of American soybeans. And then when Mr. Deng Xiaoping came to Washington, D.C. at the invitation of President Carter, when they had this ceremony on the south lawn of the White House, I was a graduate student in Shanghai. But at that time, we had no TV at our home. We have to go to a relative's house to watch a small black-white TV. So how things have changed over the years.
What did you see on that television set in your neighborhood?
Well, it was very impressive. You see, maybe for the first time, how the White House looked like, and all these. You see, Mr. Deng went to a number of U.S. cities. He spent 9 days in the United States. The cowboy hat,
yes,
everything, and the performance at the Kennedy Center.
Yes. The children's choir, the ballet, the Harlem Globetrotters.
And the basketball show.
He was quite a star.
Oh, yes.
You say that you had never seen the White House before. Not on television, not in the newspaper. It was the first time when you saw that in black and white. No one had seen a Chinese leader for decades here in the United States itself. And suddenly, on the balcony, there was this image of Jimmy Carter and Deng Xiaoping waving to the crowd below. What did that represent to you, though, far greater than what you saw?
I think actually for China, and maybe for Mr. Deng, it's all part of the strategy to have reform and opening up and normalize relations with Western countries, including the United States in particular. But I think it was a very good decision, historical decision, taken by the leaders of the two countries. And it opened up great prospects, great opportunities for people of both countries. And this decision changed the life of everybody so fundamentally.
In both countries or only in China?
Well, maybe you could see it more easily in China, but I think it also changed a lot here in the United States. For instance, during the years in the 50s, 60s, even early 70s, although there was a Cold War globally, but the US did have two hot wars in Asia, in Korea and in Vietnam. How many American lives were cost, and how much money was wasted. I think because of normalization of relations between China and the United States, because of growing cooperation between our two countries, the prospects for peace, stability, and economic prosperity is now much better than before. Everybody benefits from it.
2020, we're at the beginning of 2020. This is a year where the Chinese leadership, President Xi, has said and promised that poverty will be eliminated, but surely this will still be very difficult to achieve, because these people, these X million people who are living in poverty, have always lived in poverty through the history of China, the hardest to reach. When you think of the hardest to reach, how do you make sure that they don't get left behind? How do you close off that tap to ensure that poverty does not have a place in the history of the world's biggest population moving forward?
I think one important task in the eradication of poverty is to make people better able to improve their own life. You don't just give them some assistance. You train them, you give them opportunities to change their own lives. I think that is the best guarantee that they will never fall back into poverty again.